Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to start the Succah daf Lamed Tes. We are going to begin on Lamed Tes Amud Aleph by the two dots, quoting the words of the Mishnah. Makam Shnaga Lichbol. The Mishnah told us regarding Hallel, if you have the custom to repeat the psukim, so then that's fine, that is your minhag. Now this thing Gemara says, Tana Rabbi Koifel B'Dvarim. Rabbi used to repeat or say words over. And on this Rashi tells us, Koifel B'Dvarim me'ana v'hala, from Ana Hashem onward. Rabbi Lezer ben Parta Mosif B'Dvarim. He actually would be Mosif. He would even do more than just that. So my Mosif, what else would he add in repetition? So Rabbi Mosif Lichbol me'oidecha u'amat, which of course we know is our minhag. Me'oidecha and on, we repeat those psukim all the way to the end, until the last paragraph, in which we end off Melech Mahul B'Tishbachos. On this, the Gemara says that levarich yivarich, based on the Mishnah, it's your minhag. If you want to say that a bracha, say a bracha. So Rabbi lo shana el lachorav. The whole only time you have the option, which is dependent on your minhag, to say or not to say a bracha, is the bracha at the end. When it comes to all mitzvos, as we know, a person first says a mitzvah, says the bracha, and then afterwards they perform the mitzvah. That's the pattern. First, a person says the bracha. It's a form of kavana. A person will have the right mindset to know that they're about to do a mitzvah, and then they perform the mitzvah. But it's an interesting language of over. Rashi says kodem, before. So my mashma dahai over lishna dakdumihu. How do we know that the word over is referring to doing something before? That it's over lasyasim, is before you do the mitzvah, you're supposed to say the bracha. So the Gemara gives a few answers, a few psukim. Yomi Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak T'chsiv. The pasuk says, "V'yoretz achimatz derech hakikar," that Achimatz was running by the plain. V'yabor es akushi, and he overran, went in front of the kushi. So we see v'yabor means he went kodem or before, in front. Rabbi Omer Mahacha, who avar lifnei, he went in front of him. V'yiboisim Mahacha v'yabor malcham lifneihem, that he went before him. Hashem baroshim, and Hashem was at the head. Now let's continue with the next Mishnah. Halokech lulav mechavero b'shvius. Now a person normally will go and buy a lulav and esrog, and it's fine. But it's more problematic when it comes to on Shemitah. So nosin lo esrog b'matana. So what you should do is you should ask the person who you're purchasing it from, especially as Rashi explains, this person's an Am Haaretz. We'll see the issues of purchasing something from an Am Haaretz on Shemitah. You should ask that the esrog, which apparently should not be purchased, should instead be given to you as a gift. You're not allowed to buy this on the Shemitah year. So Rashi says, "Nosan es esrog b'matana." So you have a Talmud Chacham that wants to buy the lulav and esrog. So you should request he should give it to you as a gift, and we'll see the reason why you can't just buy it outright, which the Gemara is going to say in a few moments. So says the Gemara, after all, this person who's Am Haaretz is not a total Am Haaretz. He wants to make money. So you go up to him and say, "I'd like to purchase this lulav and esrog, but actually can you give me the esrog for free?" What do you do if he does not want to give it to you as a gift? So Rav Huna, not a problem. What you could do is havla, which is also something which we have in Hilchos Shabbos. They can absorb the price of the esrog into the lulav. So in other words, instead of you purchasing the lulav for say $20, esrog for $20, you say, you know what, sell me the lulav for $40, and then the esrog you'll throw in as a gift. So therefore, this way, none of the money actually was used for purchasing an esrog. So Gemara says, what's the whole problem over here? You're the Talmud Chacham. You're the one that's going to be holding on to this esrog if it has kedusha shvius or something like that. So what's the whole issue? The leis of le behedya. Why don't you just give him the money? Why don't you just buy the esrog? And so now what? So now you'll have an esrog that belonged to shvius, so he'll have money that you bought. So what's the whole issue? So the Gemara says, you're not allowed to give money, which is the value of the fruit, which is perish shvius, to an Am Haaretz. as we'll discuss now in Rashi. Rashi says, because the pasuk tells us, "L'achla," that when it comes to the peros of Shvius, you're supposed to consume it. V'l'schayra, you're not allowed to use it for business transactions. Shechol peros Shvius chayavin lizba'ir b'Shvius hein v'demein. Everything has to be completely used, its fruit and its value. V'lo sheyasa behem scharasai. You can't just do business lasnia la'achar Shvius. And all of a sudden, he's going to keep this money that he made off of selling these esrogim after Shvius. We're concerned that Amaretz will actually not spend this money, but he'll end up keeping it. Says Rashi, therefore, you can't pay him money for this esrog. Interesting. According to this, if you do so, you've actually violated an issur deraisa of lifnei iver lo sitin michshol. So a person, therefore, is not allowed to give this Amaretz money for the esrog, but rather either you ask him for a gift or havla, it should absorb into the price of the lulav. Okay, let's continue now with the Gemara. The Sanya. Ein moisun demei perish shvius la'amaretz. As we said, you cannot give money to an Amaretz, which for the purchasing of a fruit. Yosim and Muslim shal sudos, with the exception, unless it's up to the price of 3 meals, which is basically the amount for 1 day, which is not a significant amount of money. And therefore, there's a very good chance he's probably going to end up spending it. However, im masar, let's say he gave him more, Yomi should say harimos halolu nimchulolum al per sheishli b'sach beso. You said your money, that kedusha of shvius should go onto my fruit. And this way, you're not going to have to worry that he'll end up not using or keeping this money, because that's what we're concerned he'll end up doing. It's okay, because now that sanctity, which is on the fruit, which was transferred to the money, so now that will be transferred to my own produce, and therefore I will take care of it. I will use it as a pasuk says, l'achla, has to be consumed. So therefore, that's an option of what we could do in the event that we're concerned that Amaretz will, you give him more than that amount. As we continue to Lamed Tesam and Beis, Uva v'achlan b'kedusha shvius, and you, now that you transferred it on that kedusha of the money back onto your own produce, you'll end up eating it b'kedushas shvius. V'medivar memorim. When do we say that we allow that you could at least give him 3 sudos? Says Rashi, Mosin gimel sudasan mi moisun, that you can give over to this Amaretz v'lekech min hamufker. As we're going to see, as Gemara says, that v'lekech min hamufker, that you purchased it from something that was ownerless. V'lekech min hamashumer. If let's say it was something in which he was protecting and guarding, afil b'kachatzi iser aser, even the smallest amount you're not allowed to give him over. So let's look at Rashi again. The Medibar Morim, the Mosin Gimel Sudos Mehi Moisin B'Lekech Min Amovker. Shirach Haverzeh, you see this Talmud Chacham sees Shislatu Peros Halol B'Sada Hamufker, that the Amaretz is just gathering fruit from an ownerless field. Shena Aretz Zeh Shermer, he's not protecting it. Hoya V'Lo Re'uhu Chashud Mutter Limsul Ma'at. So since we don't see that he's doing anything really so bad, so therefore we can give him a little bit of money, up until 3 sudos. Of a low harbe, not too much. If you give him too much money, he's going to be stingy. He's not going to want to spend it. He's going to end up saving it. However, if we see that he actually was protecting it, says Rashi, Shisadazu, Haisa Mishemeres, Begeder, he had a fence around it, Pesach Noel, Zen, Nechshad L'Inyan Sheinu Mafkir L'Aniyim. So we certainly could assume that, of course, on Shvius, it's supposed to be hefker to the Aniyim. The fact that he's protecting it and guarding it and putting a fence around it shows that he's not really regarding any of the halachos that pertain to Shvius. It's supposed to be given over to those who are poor. They're able to go into the field. And maybe he's like tricking the way that he's going about selling it. And therefore, we don't want to engage this Amaretz at all if this is his practices. Says the Gemara, Masav Rav Sheshis. So Rav Sheshis asked the question, is it true that all we will allow is to give this guy who's an Amaretz up to 3 sudas and not more? Minhu. Fret the Gemara. It says like this: Hapigum, Rashi says, is asev, some type of grass. Vaha yar vozin, vaha shitim, chal gulgulois, vaha kospur, shibaharim, v'korfas shibanaharos. Whether this is by the mountains, these grasses and vegetations, that it says that people taste them. Karav uluvi gefanim. It's like comparable to vines for the date palm tree, or the shitin. Rashi says are referring to forms of vegetables. It's not so clear exactly what these are, but again, they ones that grow by the mountains. Rashi says abel kuspar shalgina chashivu. When it comes to those that are in the garden, that's considered to be chashiv, so it doesn't have the same status as these things. These are things that have, again, less chashivus. So we're going to see what the din is regarding all these different things. The gargir shall offer paturin min a meiser. All these types of vegetation which grow are unprotected, and we say that it's patur from meiser. V'nichin mikol adam shvius, and anyone can purchase this because no one is watching it. So what do we see? Well, Chayra, this is coming to tell you that you could even engage with these different types of things, which are like hefker, which we said in the case of hefker, but it's very clear that you should be able to purchase from an Amaretz these different items, which are not choshev, or they come from hefker. You should be able to give a lot more than just 3 pseudos. Right? Well, he asked me, answered it. So what is that referring to? It says Rashi, according to one's being able to be sustained, the nichum behind the shol pseudos. This is referring to 3 meals. So the truth is, it's only referring to the amount of food for 3 meals. So even though he says, oh yeah, this is allowed, it doesn't mean you can engage in Amaretz with these different things that they got from Hefker, and you can just give him a ton of stuff, because there's a very good chance they'll end up misusing it, or just end up holding on to it beyond the Shvias. So my mashmad, how do we know that language is a language of sustenance? So based on this pasuk in Daniel, so the king gave gave food, gave sustenance, gave to eat. So Yihachi lulav nami. So now we have a different question. Going back to our Mishnah, we said you should purchase the lulav and you should not purchase the esrog. The question is why? L'chayra, if there's an issue with shvius, so it's an issue of shvius for the esrog, and it's an issue of shvius for the lulav. It's the same shvius. It's still the 7th year. So why are you allowed to purchase the lulav and give him money to make shvius for the lulav, but not for the esrog? So the Gemara gives a fundamental difference between the lulav and its growth and an esrog. Lulav bar shishis hanechdas l'shviusu. When it comes to lulav, it's the 6th year and it's going into the 7th year. Yihachi esrog nami ba shishis hanechdas l'shviusi. So if let's say it's really the 6th year, so then it should be the same thing for the esrog. It's a 6th year esrog. So therefore, there should be nothing wrong with using this esrog and purchasing it, because it doesn't have kedusha shvius, because it only took upon, it's considered like a year 6 fruit, and a year 6 fruit doesn't have the kedusha shvius. So just like we're saying the lulav is a year 6 lulav, so why don't we say, keep it consistent, it's a year 6 esrog. Where it says, okay, but esrog basalakita azlinan. When it comes to the esrog, when it comes to dinim of shvius, we go basalakita, the time that you actually pluck it, you harvest it. So it doesn't matter, even if it grew in the 6th year, and we know that it stays on the tree from year to year, but the fact is that it goes basalakita, the time you gather it. So therefore, if it's a shishis and nichnas shvius, when it comes to a lulav, we're not concerned, because we go basar chanata, the time that it grew. And the time that it grew was the 6th year, so this is fine. You're allowed to give him money for the lulav. Mashenkin, when it comes to the esrog, because we go basalakita, so you gathered it, you actually harvested it, you plucked it off the tree on year 7. Therefore, it has the kedusha shvius. Baha bein Rabbi Glumil ben Rabbi Lezer le'inin shvius esrog basar chanatas linam. I thought when it comes to the dinim of shvius, they all hold that an esrog can go basa chanata, the time that it grows, not basa lakita, not time it's harvested. Not. Esrog shevel ilan begimel derachim. An esrog is comparable to a tree in three ways. Vayerik b'derech echad, and it's comparable to vegetables in one way. So how are they comparable? How is an esrog comparable to a tree? Shevel ilan begimel derachim. L'arawa, l'ravai, l'shvius. So what is that? So look at Rashi. Shvius, das linen be'la inin shvius basa chanata. So we say, just like a tree, when regarding Arla, Ravai, the first 3 years in the Ravai, the Neta Ravai, Kerem Ravai, the fourth year, they're supposed to be brought up to the Beis HaMikdash with Kedusha, and Shvius, when it comes to a tree, just like a tree, we go Basar Chanata, the time that it grows, so too when it comes to an Esr, we go Basar Chanata. So Chayra, we see when it comes to Shvius, the din is we go Basar Chanata, not Basar Lakita. So that's going to be the question. But let's finish this up. How do we say that an esrog is like a vegetable in one way? As we continue to daf mem amud aleph, shebeshas lekitaso isuro, divrei Rabbi Gamliel. According to the Shiva Rabbi Gamliel, we go bas lekita. You're right when it comes to an esrog, only when it comes to meiser. So the dinim of meiser, is it meiser rishon? Is it meiser sheni? So because we know, well, on the first every year you give meiser rishon, but years 1, 2, 4, and 5. You do Meiser Sheni, and years 3 and 6, instead of Meiser Sheni, you give Meiser Ani. 10% goes to the poor. The question is it the second or third year? What year is it? So, when it comes to an Esrog, you go Basal Lakita, when it comes to Dinim of Meiser. Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Esrog Shevel Ilan L'chol Davar. Esrog is like a tree regarding all matters, which means that there's a machlokus according to this when it comes to Meiser. Do you go Basar Chanata, or do you go like a tree, Basal Lakita? Do you go Basal Lakita, like vegetables? When you gather the vegetables, or like a tree, it goes basa chanata the time it grows. However, when it comes to shvius, we see all shitas, they all hold that we go basa chanata. So how could we say that we're talking about, the reason why the lulav is not an issue is because it's shishis nichnas l'shvius, it's 6 going to the 7th year, so we go basa chanata by a lulav, so this is not an issue when it comes to the lulav, because it's a 6th year lulav. So you can say the same thing by the esrog, because the same thing, just like the lulav, we go basa chanata. We see over here also go basa chanata. So on this, the Gemara says, "Hu di oimer ki haitana." He holds like the following time. The Tanya Omer Rabbi Yosi, of Tomus heyed mishum chamisha zakanim. He gave testimony for the 5 witnesses, and this is very important to answer the question. Esrog, acher lakita l'maiser. Esrog, we go basa lakita. When it comes to Meiser, even though we said it's a machlokus over here, we will paskin that when it comes to the esrog, we go basa lakita, the time that it's gathered. When it comes to what year it is as far as giving Meiser, Rabboseinu nimnu beusha v'amru, and here's the key line: bein lo Meiser, bein b'shvius. Not only when it comes to Meiser, but even when it comes to shvius, we're going to go basa lakita. Therefore, that's the whole answer that we actually hold, even though it seems like a machlokus, or some people say go basa chanata, that it's like a tree, but we paskin like an usha that when it comes to an esrog, we go basa lakita, the time it's actually gathered or picked or harvested. And therefore, if it's shishis and nichnas l'shvius, so the problem is now it's the 7th year, and you plucked it in the 7th year, so therefore it has kedusha shvius, and therefore the issue is again giving money to the Amaretz. He's going to hold on to it, as we'll discuss more on tomorrow's daf. Let's just see a couple more lines. We're asked, what do you mean shvius man dakar shemei? When do we ever mention shvius? So Mechzah Hakatani, whose words missing, this is how you're supposed to read it. Esr acher lakita l'maiser ve'acher chanata l'shvius. Rabboseinu nimnu beusha v'yamer esrog basar lakita bein l'maiser bein l'shvius. So again, that explains our Mishnah why we make a distinction between the lulav, which is not an issue because we go basa chanata. When it comes to the esrog, go basa lakita, and therefore you have to either ask that the esrog should be given to you as a gift, or havla that the price of the esrog should be absorbed into the price of the lulav. Okay, let's see a couple questions over here. Question 10. Tana Rebbe Kaifel b'Devarim. Rabbi Lezer ben Pratim Moisa b'Devarim. Mam Moisa was ben Pratim b'Halal. What did he add? So as we already saw in the Gemara, that he was Moisif lichpoil al kfilaso. The Rebbe, he added even more psukim that were repeated from Oidecha all the way, including Ana Hashem, including beyond that as well. Question 11. Birchos hahal imhim minadin o minhaga. So when it comes to before, it's a din. You're mechuyev to say a bracha before. However, the bracha afterwards, that is totally on minhag, and therefore you should follow your minhag, whether you say the ending or not. Question 12. Le'inin ma nechachu tanoi. Where do we find the machlokas bedin ha'esrog imazlin basar be basar chanata ki'ilan or basar lakita kiyerek? Do we go like a tree that is basar chanata when it grows, or like vegetables when they're plucked? What is the din by an esrog? So we said that the machlokas is regarding meiser and regarding shvius, but we end up saying that our Mishnah is explaining that the din of shvius when it comes to an esrog is we go basar lakita. And that's the reason why, since you gathered it again on year 7, it becomes problematic, and therefore you can't give money to the Am Haaretz. Question TA 19. Ha'im mutter limsor la'am haaretz demei shvius. Are you allowed to give money to an Am Haaretz? So he says, well, kech min mufker, as we said, this is straight from the Gemara. If it's hefker, that the Am Haaretz just gathers the produce from ownerless areas, then you can give him up to Muslim Gimel Sudos, up to 3 meals. However, if you see that he's selling something from something which he protects, which means that he's not letting a niyam come into the field, all these different dinim he's totally ignoring, then ein moismul klal. Then in that situation, you're not allowed to give him anything, nothing at all. Question TB 20. Madua ein meiser demei perish shvius l'am haaretz. What's the big deal? Why can't we just give him the Am Haaretz some money? And this is a one we saw in Rashi. The yesh b'masira zu iser d'oraisa. Is an iser d'oraisa to give him money. So he says ein meiser mishum sham haaretz chashudin l'hatzniya. They may end up holding this money, and we know that it requires biur. It needs to be consumed, the fruit and the demei peros as well, on shvius itself. And he says, "V'meiser, if you give over this money to the Am Haaretz, you over the love of lifnei iver lo sitain mechshol." Ad kan.